You can sit here. Ayin Aleph Amid Aleph. The short daf. If you haven't noticed by now, short daf equals hard daf, not easy daf. Long daf to prepare.
Hard to prepare, not
hard to prepare, not hard to listen to. Okay. Ayin Aleph Amid Aleph. Zok the Mishnah. So the Mishnah is going to talk about that even if a person says, I'm selling my field and everything in it, the following items are still not included in my field. Loes habor, the pit, the loes hagat, the wine press, the loes hashovach, the dovecote, bein charavin, bein yeshuvin, whether they're not in use or whether they're in use, these things are important enough to be considered separate entities amongst themselves, and they are not included in the sale of my field.
What is a dovecote?
Dovecote is it's a place where doves coat.
Coats for dove.
V'tzarech likach lo derech. I'm assuming it's a place where the doves live.
Yeah, it's a dove house. It's
a dove house. I think it's a place where the doves actually hang out. I've personally never seen one myself, but maybe we should go on a field trip. It's a good idea. V'tzarech likach lo derech. And connected to this, you have to get a derech for it. What does that mean? That means if I sell you my field, so I'm selling you the entire field except for the pit, except for the wine press, except for the dovecote, whatever a dovecote is. So let's say I sell you the field except for a boar. So says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, I'm selling everything. Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. I'm selling everything, but I have to go ahead and buy myself back or take myself back a path because I included everything. So how am I supposed to get to the boar? So I need to make sure that in the sale I buy back, I pay you for, or I don't include a way to get to the boar. Because even though the boar is not included, the path to the boar is included in the sale. The Chacham say, no, it's not necessary, because at the end of the day, if I'm selling you the field without the pit, by definition, then it also includes a path to be able to get to the pit. Umod Rabbi Akiva, Bisman Sha'amarlo, and Rabbi Akiva says that I need to go ahead and I need to buy back or make sure to exclude a derech so that I have a way to get to my pit. If I say chutz me'elu, I'm selling you everything except for these, except for the pit, she'eno tzarech likach lo derech, then I don't have to go ahead and separately get a way to get there, because at the end of the day, if when I sell the field stam, it doesn't include the pit, so if I say I'm selling you the field without the pit, I'm already not including the pit. It must be that I'm adding something else when I say except for the pit. So now except for the pit includes the path to get to the pit. That's what Rabbi Akiva says. Bamed dvar marmurim, I'm sorry. Machran la'acher. So that's if I sell the entire field. The question is whether the pit is included or not.
I thought it was you sold the pit.
What?
You sold the pit.
No, 1 second. Machran la'acher now. Now it's a new case. Machran la'acher. Now, if I only sell you the pit and not the field, Rabbi Akiva Omer Eino Tzarech Likach Lo Derech. So now the buyer, when he buys the pit, Rabbi Akiva says that he doesn't need to buy a way to get to the pit because it's included in the buying of the pit, and we'll explain why in a second. And the Chachamim say he does have to go ahead and he needs to buy a way to get to the pit. Now, again, what is this based on? So if we think about it, if we just read the Mishnah, then it's like, okay, what are we talking about? They reverse their opinions, but if you know the Svara, it makes sense. What's the Svara? So they're arguing about whether when a person, this is going to come up a few times today, whether when a mocher sells something, he sells ba'ayin yafer or ba'ayin ra. When I sell you something, I'm selling, just like buy a matana, everybody agrees when I give you a matana, I'm giving you an ayin tova. I'm giving it to you with a good eye. When I give you a present, I'm not giving you a little bit, I'm giving you the whole thing. Question is, when I sell you, am I selling you with an ayin yafa, I'm selling you the whole thing? Or with an ayin ra, I'm going to sell you something, but I'm going to be cheap about it. So what does Rabbi Akiva say? Rabbi Akiva says that when I sell you something, I'm selling you ba'ayin tova. I'm selling you everything, and therefore, I'm not selling you the pit, that's not included, but I'm selling you everything else in full amounts. Therefore, tzarech likach lo derech, since I sold you ba'ayin tova, I need to make sure as the seller that I take back a path from me because I sold you ba'ayin tova and I gave you everything. And that's why he says again that when I sold just the pit to you, you don't need to go back and buy a derech, because when I sell things, I sell it ba'ayin tova. And if I'm selling you just the boar, then I'm a seller that sells ba'ayin tova, and I sell you a path to the boar as well. And the opposite, Chachamim say that when I sell you something, it's ba'ayin ra, and therefore when I sold you the field without the pit, it was ba'ayin ra, and I didn't include the path to the pit, and therefore I don't have to go ahead and get a path for myself. But at the same token, if I sell things ba'ayin ra, therefore when I sell him just the pit, it's ba'ayin ra, not including the path, and therefore the Chamim say tzarech likach lo derech. So it makes sense if you go in and you do the svara. That's why they seem to be saying. That's why they do say the opposite, depending on whether I'm selling the entire field or just the bore. Bamed dvar marmurim. So in general, now this is again, these are different parts of the Mishnah that are connected, but not really the same. But bamed dvar marmurim, this idea that we've been talking about the entire perek, where when you sell something, you sell like a field or a house, so other things are not included. Where is that? B'mocher, when you sell something. And again, there's a machlokas whether a mocher sells b'ayin ra, b'ayin tova, or b'ayin yafeh. But that's by a mocher, where if I sell you a field, they don't necessarily include the pit or the other parts of the field with it. Aval benotze matana notze neskula. But when I give a matana, everybody agrees that a matana is given b'ayin tova. When I give you a matana, it always includes everything. So the default is when I give you a matana, I include more than we would think that I would include, and when I sell you something, I'm always including the least common denominator, the least amount that I can possibly sell you. Ha'achin shalchalku. Similarly, brothers that split up a Yerusha, zachu b'sada zachu b'kula. So when each brother gets their portion, let's say there's 5 brothers, when they split up the land into 5, they don't just get the actual piece of the field, they don't just get their fifth of the field, they get everything associated with the field. Because even though in general when I sell you a field, I don't include the bore, but since there's no other person, there's no other party involved here when you're being Yoresh, so you inherit the field, and also if your portion has the bore in it, then you'll get the bore as well. It's like a matana. Hamachzik b'nichse ager. Similarly, if a ger dies, he has no yorshim by definition, so anybody can go ahead and grab his stuff. So if you're machzik in his nechasim, hechzik b'sada, hechzik b'kula. Similarly, even though if you would sell a field, it wouldn't include the bore. If you are machzik in the field of a ger who dies, you would get the bore and everything else as well.
You're not referring to the top one here, right? When you said that.
What do you mean?
In other words, that's not included.
For whom?
Bore, and something like a bore is included, but not
on the land.
You're saying if I'm machzik, the next say the ger.
Right?
Seemingly, you're saying if I'm machzik in the land of the ger, doesn't mean I get all of his stuff. This is going to be a difficult case, which we'll get to in just a minute. Hamakdish es hasada. When I'm makdish asada, when I give it to hekdesh, so the question is whether I'm hikdish es kula or not. Does that include a bore, for instance? Well, you can look at it 2 ways. Asada, being makdish asada, can either be like being mocher asada, which would be that it would not be included a bore, or it could be like giving a matana, and therefore it is including the bore. So hikdish es asada, hikdish es kulo. So the Tanna Kama seems to say that it's like a matana, and everything's included. Rabbi Shimon Omer is something very interesting. Not here and not there. Hamatish es asada, you are makdish everything, but lo hikdish ella es hecharuf hamorka v'yasidan hashikma. You're makdish the field, not the bore. Seemingly it's mechira, but you are makdish the carob tree and the cut sycamore, which for our purposes today we're going to say means you are makdish the trees. We'll have to understand exactly why you should be makdish the trees. If it's in fact a mechira, so, well again, it says specifically these trees. The way that I'm learning, the way that I learned the Rashbam when I was preparing was it would include any trees, any ilanos. This is an example of ilanos. So again, the first the Tanakam I understand. It's like a matana, a makdish asada, a makdish everything. Second understanding, the second case, Rabbi Shimon says, no, it's like a mechira. When I'm makdish asada, I'm not makdish everything. But for some reason, he excludes trees. And we'll have to see exactly why he excludes trees, and that's why the next stop is very short, because it's very complicated. Zak the Gemara. Maishna machar umaishna matana. Why should there be a difference between mechira and matana? What's the difference? So Pirish Yehuda ben Nekusa lifnei Rabbi. So first Yehuda ben Nekusa says before Rabbi, Zeh Pirish v'Zeh Pirish. I'll tell you why. Because in the case of the matana, the guy said, I'm giving you everything, including the bore. And in the case of the mechira, I said, I'm selling you everything, but he didn't say I'm selling you the bore. It says the Gemara, ridiculous. Hi Zeh Pirish v'Zeh Pirish. Zeh Pirish v'Zeh Pirish. You'll read the Mishnah. The Mishnah doesn't make a chiluk that in this case he excluded, in this case he was specific, in this case he wasn't. That's crazy. No. Rather, it means that a person who gives, again, the way that we've been understanding it until now, a giver is generally more generous than a seller. And therefore, the default is that a giver is giving plus. The default is that a seller is selling minus. whatever the least amount he could sell is, and we know this from business, the seller is going to sell the least amount as well. He's not going to include any frills in the thing. He's going to give you exactly what you buy, and that's it. The matana, we know when you give your kids, so keep the change, I'm giving you $50, I only owe you $20, keep the extra $30, etc. When you give a gift, you're always going to give more than you have to. So we're going to include everything in the gift. The bor, we're going to include everything. When I sell something, I'm selling the least common thing that I can sell you. If I said I'm selling you the sada, I'm selling you the sada and only the sada. And that makes sense, and that's the svar that we've been dealing with. Hahu da'amar lahu. Story. There was one who said to Adim, Havule leplanya besa demachzik mea gulfi. This guy had a lot of houses. He was very rich. And he said, give as a matana to my friend my house that holds 100 barrels. Okay, that's the size of his house. It holds 100 barrels. Guess he had a lot of barrels, so that's how he measured his house. So they looked at all of his houses, and he had no houses that held 100 barrels. But he had a house that held 120 barrels. All of his houses held 80 barrels, and one house held 120 barrels. So the obvious question is, did he mean to give him the house that held 120 barrels or not? Zok the Gemara, Amar Marzutra, Mea Amar Le, Mea Ve'esrin Lo Amar Le. So I would have thought that Marzutra would say, he didn't give him any house because he was just making up a house. He doesn't have a house 100. That's not what Marzutra says. We don't go over what he said, but we have to give him the 100 that he said. So what do? You give him the 120 house, but you only give him 100 barrels worth of the 120 house, which is, in English, 5/6 of the house. You give him 5/6 of that house, and he keeps 1/6 for himself. That's what Marzutra says. Amar le Ravashi. I'm sorry, Ravashi Amar. Ravashi says, Milo Tanan, but we just learned. This guy's giving a gift, and we just said that when people give gifts, so they're very generous with their gifts. He said 100, but even though he's only giving 100, he means to give 120, and therefore, Lamaisa, he gets to keep the whole house. Good? You don't like this one. I saw you shaking your head. You wanted to, you think you should get the 80 house. Okay? No. Hamakdish es asada hikdish. Hold on tight here. So again, we have two opinions. Tanakama says Hamakdish es asada hikdish es kula because it's a matana and I include everything in the hekdesh. Therefore, I include the bor as well. Rabbi Shimon says it's like a mechira. Again, this is the Havamina. Rabbi Shimon says it's like a mechira. Therefore, I'm only selling you the field and not anything connected to it. Not the bor. However, I'm not selling it literally, but I'm giving as hekdesh. However, for some reason, the ilanos are included in the hekdesh, and we'll have to see why. Zok the Gemara, Amar Afuna. We're going to bring in another case, which is why it's complicated, and then we're going to ask a question from that case. Here's the following case. Amar Afuna. Afagav de Amar Rabbanan hakone shnei ilanos betol shel chavero harezel okane karka. So what's the case here? We're going to have two different cases now. I am selling you 2 trees in my property. And Rashbam points out that if it were 3 trees, the halacha would be different. But for now, I'm selling you 2 trees in my property. Those 2 trees on my property are yours. The question is, did I sell you the karka underneath the trees or not? Now, what's the nafkamina? Well, if I didn't sell you the karka underneath the trees, that means you get those trees and you can cut them down. You can get all the fruit from those trees. But as soon as those trees die, that's it. You're finished. You can't plant another tree because it's not your land. The land is my land. It's not your land. And I can go ahead and I can kick you off of the property because at the end of the day, you bought the trees and only the trees. You got the trees. What? Forget about the path to the tree. The path to the tree is not even the discussion here. We can assume even if you bought a path to the tree, that's fine. Getting to the tree is not a problem. We're assuming that's not part of the discussion. But if I sell you the tree, so you get the tree and only the tree and nothing but the tree. Harezel lo kana karka. That's what the Rabbanan say. Why would that be? Seemingly that would be that a mechira is ba'ayin ra. Right? That a mechira is ba'ayin ra. And when I'm selling you something, I'm selling it ba'ayin ra. I'm dafka only selling you the tree and nothing but the tree. Right? Says the Gemara, machar karka. So now do it the other way. If I sell you karka, v'shayir shnei ilanos lefanav. But I keep 2 trees for myself. So am I keeping the karka underneath the trees? Yesh lo karka. Because again, machar is ba'ayin ra machar. When I sell you something, I sell you the least common amount. Therefore, when I'm selling you my field minus 2 trees, obviously, since I'm the seller and I'm cheap, quote unquote, I'm selling you the entire field minus the trees. And obviously, I mean to keep for myself the land underneath the trees so that forever I will have that land in case I want to plant other trees if these shall die. That makes sense. That's the Rabbanan. Because again, a mochar is mocher ba'ayin ra. Ve'afilu l'Rebbe Akiva de'amar mocher ba'ayin yafa mocher. And even according to Rabbi Akiva, who holds that when I sell something, I sell it ba'ayin yafa. And therefore what? Hakon eshnei ilanos v'tol shel chaveiro. It should be harezek kone karka. According to Rabbi Akiva, when I sell you 2 trees, you do get the land underneath the trees. And when I sell you the land without the 2 trees, I am not keeping for myself the land underneath the trees because I'm always giving you the benefit of the doubt as the buyer. However, Hani Mili, says the Gemara, even Rabbi Akiva would agree to these halachas. Hani Mili gabe bor. Well, again, when I sell you just 2 trees, so by there he would say that I'm selling you the land underneath the trees. That he's going to argue with. But the Gemara says that in the case where I kept the 2 trees for myself, even though in general Rabbi Akiva would say that I do not keep the land for myself because a mocher is ba'ayin yafeh mocher, and I'm selling you everything, he would disagree here. And when I keep 2 trees for myself, even he would agree that I get the land underneath the trees. Why should that be? Because hani mili gabe bor vidos delo ka mechakashe be'ara. That's only that he's mocher ba'ayin yafeh by a bore and by a cistern. Now that's a good question. A dovecote I can understand. What exactly does it mean, a cistern? What does that mean, Lamaisa? What exactly is a cistern?
Cistern is a reservoir that holds
That's like
water.
the bore. That's like the bore that holds the water.
Yeah, but it's built to hold water. Then,
But it's built like a bore. It's built into the ground.
yeah.
Fine. So the cistern or the bore aren't machish the ara. What does that mean? It means when I sell you the sadeh, except for, again, the bore is not included, then it doesn't ruin your field. That means if you buy the sadeh from me and I keep the bore, that's it. That bore will always be mine, and I'm not worried that you're ever going to want to kick me out because you know what you're buying. You're getting all the land, and you can even cultivate the land directly up to the bore. What happens if I sell you my field except for these 2 trees and I want to keep the land underneath my trees? Well, that's going to be detrimental to you because what? It's not just a matter of having my trees there. That soil underneath my trees takes nourishment, takes nutrients from all of the field. And therefore, even though in general Rabbi Akiva would say that a mocher is ba'ayin yafeh, that when I sell you something, I go all out and I sell you everything, he would agree that when I sell you this field and keep 2 trees for myself, even though in general you would think according to his svara, I'm selling the land underneath the trees as well, in this case he agrees that I'm keeping the land for myself because I know that you're going to give me a hard time when my trees die because it affects you because this land is taking nutrients from the rest of the land. By the bore, I don't sell you. I sell you the land even up to the bore because at the end of the day it doesn't affect anything because you're never going to bother me. For the next 300 years you're going to be fine with me having a bore in your field because again, that was excluded in the sale and it doesn't really affect you. There's a bore there, yes, but you knew that when you bought it. But that bore is not taking anything away from your field. But if I would sell you this and it would not include, and it would include the land underneath the trees, so then I know that you're not going to like it. Therefore, even though in general I would include the land, I'm nervous that if I include the land, what's going to happen as soon as my tree dies? You're going to say, get out of here, get off my land. So in this specific case, the seller has in mind, even though in general the seller is be'ayin yafeh, in this case when he sells the whole land except for his 2 trees, even Rabbi Akiva will agree that he means, we know that in his mind, anan sadeh, that he means to keep the land underneath the trees for himself as well, so that this buyer can never give him a hard time. Avali lonos tekamachich she be'ara, im isa didlo shire, if he would not keep for himself land, Lay, then the buyer can say to him when the tree dies, Akor ilancha shakul vizil, take your tree away. And therefore everybody would agree in the case where I sell the land and I keep 2 trees for myself, everyone will agree that I get to keep the land underneath the trees as well. Those are the cases. Now what does that have to do with what we're talking about with Hakdesh? Tanan, as follows. We're going to ask a kasha on Rabbi Shimon. What did Rabbi Shimon say? Rabbi Shimon omer hamekadesh es hasadeh lo hikdish ela charuv hamorka v'sadin hashikma. When I go ahead and I sell the field, when I makdish the field, I makdish the whole field except for the ilanos. So he seems to contradict himself because if I makdish the whole field, that seems like it's a matana. But if it's a matana, then why am I not makdish? Then why am I? Sorry, if I makdish the field, I'm not makdish everything. That seems like a mechira. But if I'm not makdish everything, so then why, in fact, am I makdish the trees? B'tani Allah, Amr Rabbi Shimon Matam. What's the reason that the trees are included in the hekdesh? Hoel v'yonkin mistei hekdesh. Because they're getting their nutrients from the sadas. And you're not allowed to get hana from hekdesh. So what happens here? I'm being makdish my entire field. I'm being makdish the entire field, and these trees are on the field. Now, by definition, if I'm being makdish the entire field, it must be that I'm being makdish these trees as well, because there's no way for them to get nutrients but from the field. And you're not allowed to get hana from anything. So therefore, it's as if, again, I'm being makdish the whole thing. I'm considered as a mocher. I'm selling it. It's like I'm selling it. And even if we say a mocher is ba'ayin ra, again, is talking about the things that are included, right? When we say that, again, this is why it's complicated. When I talk about a mechira being ba'ayin ra, so we're talking about the field, and then you have the bore in the field. So when we say that I sell ba'ayin ra, that means I don't include the bore that's in my field. When I give a matana, it's really ba'ayin yafer. If you hold like Rabbi Akiva that when you're mocher ba'ayin yafer, that includes even the bore in the field. We're not talking about the bore now. Now we're just talking about the actual field. Even if you're mocher ba'ayin ra, when you sell a field, you sell the entire field. When you makdish a field, you makdish the entire field. So in this case, the guy is makdish a field. Even if we treat it, again, according to Tanakama, we're not even discussing now. Tanakama says you makdish a field, it's like a matana, you makdish everything. You makdish the trees, and not only you makdish these trees, you makdish even the bore and everything. So Tanakama is not in the discussion for the rest of the day. That's a separate, we treat it like a matana. We're going to be talking about this Rabbi Shimon who holds that you treat it like a mechira, and we're going to compare it to the case of selling 2 trees or selling your whole sada. That's why it's only within Rabbi Shimon this discussion. So again, if we're dealing with a mechira, we're talking about, forget about this second case that we brought up, just in the Mishnah itself. When we read the Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Hamakdish es hasada, if I'm makdish my sada, lo hikdish ella. I'm not makdish the bore, I'm not makdish anything except for the trees. What does that imply? That what am I doing when I'm makdish a sada? It's similar to selling something. When I sell something, it's ba'ayin ra. Ba'ayin ra, therefore it doesn't include the bore. That's why when I'm makdish it doesn't include the bore. Why are the trees included in the hekdesh? Because by default, we have no choice. Because when I go ahead and I'm makdish a field, even though I'm not makdish the bore, because it's a mechira, and mechira is ba'ayin ra, when I'm makdish the field, I'm makdish the entire field. The trees can only live with the field. Once I go ahead and I get rid of the field, by definition, I'm giving up the trees as well. That's the pshat. We haven't gotten to the question yet. But that's the pshat. Right now. That's how you learn this Gemara. Since they're yonik. Now, we're going to compare it now to our case of being yonik from the ground. Let's see. The Isaka daitach shiyu reishayir. And if you're going to tell me that, in fact, you were mashir for yourself, that means what was the case over there? You said over there that what? You said that machar karka v'shayir shnei ilanos lifanav yesh lo karka. That when you're mocher, so you keep the karka for yourself. What do you mean you keep the karka for yourself? When I'm mocher something, I'm mocher everything. Why should I keep the karka for myself? V'ishayir ki kayanke midinavshe kayanke. Let's read the Rashi just to make it clear. Hoel v'yonkin mistei hekdesh. This is the first wide line. Hu hekdesh es hasadeh be'ayin yafeh. Afilu malkam achar v'asadim k'sheshayir la'atzma l'ashayir man karka nimtzu gedelim mikarka hekdesh v'gidulei hekdesh hekdesh ninu. Alma. Therefore we see the fact that everything becomes hekdesh, that all the trees become hekdesh, implies what? Hamishayer ilanos la'atzmo. That when I keep trees for myself, eino mishayer karka. Ella ba'ayin yafeh mocher u'makdish kol ha'karka. Again, when I go ahead, if I'm giving up my field and we're saying I'm giving up everything, including all the trees, that means I'm basically saying I'm being makdish ba'ayin yafeh. I'm being mocher and I'm giving the entire field. V'iyamart diman dimizavin karka la'acher u'mishayer ilanos la'atzmo mishayer kemokein karka yinikas ha'ilanos. But how's that possible? On one end, you're telling me that when I'm makdish a field, it's like a mechira. Okay, but you just told me that by a mechira, when I sell everything but 2 trees, I get to keep the land underneath the trees. So on one end, you're telling me that a mechira is ba'ayin ra, that I'm selling you everything but the land underneath the trees. And now you're telling me here by the hekdesh, which is like a mechira, that I'm giving you everything, including the land underneath the trees. V'hu adin l'makdish aliba de Rabbi Shimon da ki hadadei ninu. Im kena mai katshe charo v'sadin mishum sheyokin mistei hekdesh haki yonke mi denafshayu kayonke mi masha shir la'atzim v'lo mi karka. We said according to everybody, even within Rabbi Akiva, according to everybody, when I go ahead and I sell the land except for my 2 trees, I get to keep the land underneath my trees. So I don't understand. On one hand, I'm selling land and I'm keeping the 2 trees and I'm getting the land underneath the trees. And yet over here by Hekdesh, we should have said the same thing. We should have said I'm being makdish my field and I'm being makdish the entire field except for the land underneath the trees. And then I could have kept the trees. And I could have said the whole field is Hekdesh except for the land underneath the trees. And then I could keep the trees and I could keep the land. Because if the land underneath the trees is not Hekdesh, then I have no problem with the trees getting yonek from the land. But we don't say that. So we clearly see that when I'm makdish something which is like mechira, I sell the entire thing, including the land underneath the trees. And then in the case of Hekdesh, I have no choice but to give away the trees as well. But that's not what you just said. You just said in the case of the mechira that when I sell the entire land except for 2 trees, I'm not giving up the land underneath the trees. If I'm not giving up the land underneath the 2 trees, why by the case of Hekdesh do I need to give up the trees? Tell me that I was makdish everything except for the land underneath the trees, and then by definition I can keep the 2 trees.
Is there a difference if he sells 2 trees or 3 trees?
So again, I said the Rashbam says that if he sells 3 trees, but the Gemara doesn't make that chiluk over here. The Gemara is assuming that even if there's just 1 tree on your property, so Lamaisa, the entire thing becomes Hekdesh as well.
Oh, I thought it had to be minimum 2.
No. 1 or 2. Okay, so everybody clear with that? It's a complicated, but that's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara is going to give an easy answer. Rabbi Shimon de Amar Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shimon says like Rabbi Akiva. And as Rashi says, just to point out, as the Gemara says over here, Rashbam says, in Rabbi Shimon de Amar Rabbi Akiva, just look at the end of that Rashbam, V'hashta hadar be ha-Gemara mimay de Amar le'el v'afilu Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara is going back, and it's being hadar from what it said that even according to Rabbi Akiva, when the case where I sell my land except for 2 trees, I'm going to get to keep my land. And the Gemara is going back and saying, no, when I sell my land except for 2 trees, I don't get to keep my land. Because at the end of the day, when I sell my land, I'm mocher ba'ayin yafeh. And therefore, again, we said, afilu meir de amar mocher ba'ayin yafeh. In this case, I want to keep it so that the guy doesn't kick me off. He's saying, no, we're not going to say that svara. At the end of the day, when you're mocher something, it's ba'ayin yafeh. Therefore, when I sell you my entire field except for 2 trees, I'm keeping only the 2 trees, but I'm not keeping the land underneath the 2 trees. And therefore, it makes sense by Hekdesh. When I'm makdish my entire field, I'm makdish my entire field and the land underneath the trees. By the case of Hekdesh, once I'm makdish the land underneath the trees, by definition, I need to get rid of the trees. That's what the Gemara says. Rav Huna de Amar Kirabanan. And Rav Huna over here, who says again that when you sell the land except for 2 trees, you get to keep the land underneath the 2 trees. That's like Rav Huna, who says that a mocher is mocher ba'ayin ra. Kirabanan pshita. That's obvious. I don't understand. If a mocher by definition is mocher ba'ayin ra, so what's the chiddush that when I sell you my land except for the 2 trees, I get to keep the land underneath the 2 trees? I know that it's ba'ayin ra. So the Gemara nafka mina di'inaf lehadar shasilahu. It needs to tell us that you keep the land underneath, because you might have thought that what? You might have thought that when I sell ba'ayin ra. When I sell you something, so I'm not selling you the land underneath the trees, and I'm keeping the trees and the land underneath. But you might have had a havamina that I get to keep the land for myself until my tree falls down, or until my tree dies, and then the land goes back to you, the buyer. Kamash malan, that no, machar is ba'ayin ra machar, and when I sell you the trees and when I sell you the land and not the trees, I keep the trees for myself, I keep the land underneath the trees, and I get the land underneath the trees permanently, and even if the trees die, I will then get to be able to go ahead and keep the land forever. Okay, stop here, it's a new topic.